What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And in 2022 and 2021, being part of that team, reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world. So as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. You are watching Black Canada Talking, and we do this every other Sunday. And Black Canada Talking is a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And every other week, we invite people to come in. And one of our mainstays, and a lot of people love this gentleman, a lot of people. I mean, I got people from the US and Canada enjoying this gentleman's lens. And it was interesting. Before we came on live, he said, Dr. Vibe, like I'm all by myself. I said, Cesar, I'm looking to get some other people on. He says, he doesn't mind being on by himself, and we don't mind having him. So we'll take him as long as we can get him, as long as the lady in his life allows him to be on. So as always, we're blessed and highly favored to have Cesar Ndema-Moussa on, president of Roots and Culture Canada. What is up, Cesar? How you doing?
Brother Vibe, I'm very good. Thank you always for having me.
My pleasure.
Very, very busy, of course, as everyone. I was sick last week with gastro. So as a new parents, because our daughter is not 2 years old yet, we found out a painful way that when your infant has gastro, just wait, you're gonna have it too. So that's what happened, and while still performing. But if I can share this good news, last Thursday, while being sick, I had the great news of finding out, totally unexpected, that I was one of 9 international recipients of the Human Rights Consultant Award from the United States Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights.
What?
So I definitely
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Totally unexpected. And I mean, I only became certified in human rights in 2022, but they opened the award for people's achievements even prior to becoming officially certified in human rights. So I got in the middle of being sick in bed with wifey, both of us sick, and parenting. Get that email, and so that's among other good news, of course, but that is a good one, international award, and a good one for our Black community here in Canada, of course, as a Pan-Africanist for our Black people worldwide, but as well for our organization, Roots and Culture Canada, in terms of bringing forth our message, me and CEO Kessia Peters.
Wow, congratulations, Cesar. And I know you're a very humble gentleman, but I'm gonna do this. In respect, I'm doing this. That we definitely have to we can't let this year go by. We have to cross paths some way, somehow this year. And it was my fault last time, fully agree.
No, it's not your fault, brother. You told me of the
but we definitely, Cesar, this is I'm true, and I'm being 100% honest here. Cesar, you do not know how many people, melanated and non-melanated, appreciate your sharing on this platform. I'm going to tell you, there is, for people who don't know, I use a lot of interns, and a number of them are non-melanated. And I have a lady who's doing the editing right now of this show. Her name is Jess. And the first time she edited the show, she goes, I love Cesar. And Jess is of Italian background. Non-melanated Italian background. She goes, I love Cesar. So to see that wonderful smile, I know that's coming from your heart, your thought process, your passion, your grace, and your caring for humanity, especially Black humanity. But you care about humanity, but I know
100%.
especially you care about Black humanity. Is
100%.
being your ripples are being felt in areas and people you may never meet. So I just want to tell you that.
Thank you. I'm very humbled. Uh, Thank you to your intern, Jess. Uh, if I can share very quickly, you can let her know that my daughter goes to bed listening to Loretta, Albano, Romina, and Pupu. She will 100% understand all of that. And
Okay.
she speaks a little bit of Italian, as I also teach her.
Okay.
But no,
Okay.
I thank you for your words. And something very important that I remind people, um, my brand of Pan Africanism is my own. Uh, the heroes behind me are inspiration, but I truly and always, since I'm a kid, anyone who knows me will tell you, I always paved my own path. And as such, one of the things that is very true about Roots and Culture Canada, we are a Pan Africanist organization, Black organization, but we don't close our doors on anyone because one of the things that we know and we always say, everybody has a Black ancestor. It's a question of, are you going back a few generations or are you willing to go back a couple of thousands of years ago? And nobody should be held a victim or guilty of the color of the skin. And as such, at Roots and Culture Canada, we do have non-Black people who will help us in our programs and to advance for the plight of Black youth, Black adults, Black seniors, and also to help anyone. One of the things I always remind people when I give my conferences and trainings is always this one. Let us not wait for aliens to come on Earth to either enslave, colonize, conquer us, whatever you want to call it. Let's not wait for aliens to come for us to remember we are humans first and foremost.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
Beautiful. I could end the conversation just at that, but I know there's some things that Cesar wants to share about, and the audience would be very upset if I shut it down because we want to hear what Cesar is thinking about. So I don't want to be the bad guy today. So and before we go forward, as always, hey, if you want, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. If you subscribe it on YouTube, also hit the notification button so you'll get notified on when epic conversations come up on the platform. Or like it on Facebook or wherever you're watching this. Subscribe. So let's go to our first thing. I think, is this coming up on Tuesday? The upcoming federal budget in Canada and Black people. I think, is it Tuesday?
28,
okay.
yes.
28. Okay, so Cesar, I want to talk about it and the impact on Black people.
How can I put it? So I am of two minds. I do understand those of our people who are pessimistic about this. But at the same time, I also do want to give value to those who are optimistic. As purely a coincidence of the calendar, as of Monday, I will begin forums in the child welfare sector for staff, management, senior leaders, and boards regarding Canada's implication in the Ukraine war, combined with the inflation and socioeconomic aspects happening right here. So, very much touching on the budget. The way I look at it is simply like this. Like the great African American / Black philosopher named Tupac Shakur said, they never have money for the poor, but they got money for wars. I look forward to this budget in the sense of, and I'm really saying this without any sarcasm, it's great to help the people in Ukraine, but to what extent is the government really going to help the average Canadian in addressing the inflation, the rising cost of living, but also in addressing mental health? The government is doing some good things, let's be honest, addressing, for example, here in Ontario, um, working with the government, the federal government in regards to daycares, but also with the NDP pressure, addressing the dental plan for people making less than, and also in regard to prescriptions and pharmaceuticals. So the way I'm looking at this federal budget in terms of some of the projections, they're talking about notably more environmental prone, e-bill in terms of doing the industrial change as the United States is doing. I believe the U.S. budget is talking about $400 billion. To what extent is Canada going to put money into that? And I say this in terms of this transformation. How is this going to impact Black people? Is this going to create new economical sectors that will notably address systemic racism in having doors open to uplift Black people in this new economy? The reason I ask this is because as we are speaking right now, we have, it's not just Black people, but especially Black people who are still in jail for cannabis, marijuana offenses, while we have white, middle class, and upper middle class who have enriched themselves from the legalization of cannabis. That is an insult in terms of human dignity that you have, using stereotypical name, you have Tyrone, Jamal, and Mohammed, who are Black, sitting in jail, are still having to carry on offenses in the criminal record regarding cannabis, while you have Michael, Peter, and John who have made money off of that. So as the budget, we notably talk about the green economy. Are the perspectives in terms of the green economy going to be profitable to the socioeconomic development and integration of non-white communities? Overwhelmingly, I'm speaking here, Blacks and Indigenous in Canada. At the same time, we have to recognize that there is the growth of artificial intelligence, automation, etc., etc. So the very changing nature of the workplace, beyond working from home or returning to work, but the very changing nature of the workplace with artificial intelligence, how is that going to impact Black people who, more than others, will tend to be so-called low entry-level workers, less qualified for certain positions? And I'm saying this carefully because we know how too well, when it comes to Blacks, it is actually with a reality of discrimination. How many immigrant professionals do we have who come here, have to take low entry level because they have to get the Canadian equivalencies? How many people from the Caribbean and Africa, and as well Middle East and certain parts of Asia, have to have their lives, aka their family lives, delayed by X amount of years simply because the passport, and as such the degree, does not come from a Western country such as France and England, the USA or Germany or Australia or Japan. You see? So these are some of the things that I'm thinking of. Of course, I look forward to the fact that in the budget, I mean Prime Minister Trudeau, and I was there present when there was I think it was on February 8th, the official launching of the Black History Month 2023. Monies put into addressing systemic racism, and notably to pursue with the Jean Augustine Chair at York University to fund the institution, the academic chair. All of that is great, but one of the things that we must always be careful about as Black people is about how, more often than not, anti-Black racism is not addressed on its own. It is lumped in together with a bunch of other discrimination and hate crimes, despite studies and statistics indicating that the number one victims of hate crime and as such of discrimination in Canada are still Black people. the number one victims of hate crimes, if we look at solely addressing a specific groups, are Black people. The main reason being not only historical, socioeconomical, but also because we cannot hide, we cannot pretend to be part of another group. What is seen first and foremost is our Blackness.
Good. A few quick questions before we move on to our next conversation piece. Just in reverse order, do you ever see a Canadian federal government separating the anti-Black racism experience compared to other forms of racism?
At the peril of sounding like a positivist, because I'm not a positivist, I'm a realist. But I'm a realist who also agrees with hope. I will say that yes. I will say yes because a few years ago, prior to 2018, so 5 years ago actually, if I'm not mistaken, most would not have seen the Canadian government recognize um, systemic racism and recognize the particular guilt that notably Canada plays in regards to the United Nations Declaration for People of African Descent. So yes, there is progress. Absolutely, there is progress. We have to be cognizant of that, and we have to acknowledge it. This is not a matter. I'm not giving some pep talk, for Justin Trudeau or pro-liberal pep talk. No, but we have to recognize that there is progress, and this government has done some recognition. I have opposed this government on certain stances, such as Prime Minister Trudeau taking a knee down. No, I disagree with such theatrics, but I will also commend them for recognizing the Declaration for People of African Descent, recognizing that there is indeed systemic anti-Black racism in Canada, and as such, to isolate anti-Black racism from the rest of so-called discrimination and hate, just as is done for other communities, such as, speaking of truth and reconciliation, indigenous people, speaking of hate crime, anti-Semitism for Jewish people, to be able to recognize this very particularity. However, for that to truly happen, again, it is a matter of power relations. Too many of our Black people work on a moral lens. It doesn't work. We're talking about power relations. We are 3.5% of the Canadian population. In the United States, I believe the statistics still speak of 13 to 15%. It varies. But the nature of these power relations is for us to stand firm, to affirm our Blackness, to support our own, to basically be strategic when we come forward and support certain policies and certain politicians. It is part of living in integration and being part of a democratic society. But for that, we have to stop, as too many Black people do it, to stop thinking that because we either have a certain job or live in certain neighborhoods, or we have the accolades of certain people, notably politicians, that we have made it. We have not reached the mountaintop, and we will not reach the mountaintop as long as there will be systemic inequalities ongoing in the system, in Canada, in the United States, all over the Americas, in Africa, and the world for any Black person. That is 100% the case. As long as one Black person victim of racism, it doesn't matter if your name is Obama and you're president of the United States, you can still be referred by the N word. And that happened to him when he was president of the United States in America.
Before we probably move on to another conversation piece, just this past Thursday, Ontario released its most updated recent budget, biggest spending budget ever, but no help to the average Ontario, aka tax cuts or anything. Do you feel that may stimulate the federal government to give money or some sort of financial incentives to the less advantaged, aka many Black Canadians?
That's a very good question because let me add to it. In contrast to the Ontarian government of Prime Minister Ford, the Quebec government of Prime Minister Legault did bring some tax cuts for its
Interesting.
population. You see what I mean?
Interesting.
So now, as we are looking at 2023, and we are looking at socio-demographics of Canada, not only in terms of Ukrainian residents, but also people, more immigrants, aka the government talking about 500,000 per year.
Wow.
As you are also looking at, because you have to remember something, Canada's age to vote is 18 years old.
Right.
That means every year you have all this group of people, basically, they don't just graduate high school, they graduate into voting age. 2025 is just in 2 years down the road. These young voters will basically be like, what did you do for me? I believe this is something that can play into the Canadian government, not so much in terms of tax cuts, but in addressing inflation to basically try to see how to um, jugulate that with, example, the monies that are sent to Ukraine, because that money is not coming back, no matter how the government would like to try to play it. It's not coming back. That money is gone. So, how is basically a budget in 2023 going to be preemptive to be an indicator to help people vote for the Trudeau government in 2025?
Right.
And if I may add just one last point, even as because you were asking not to be specifically about Black people, well, when we have Black organizations, and I'm not here criticizing them myself, I want to state that very clearly. But when we have Black organizations such as the Black North Initiative that get the support either from the government and or notably Canadian banks, but that become unknown to most of Black Canadians, it becomes incumbent upon Prime Minister Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, but also the Doug Ford and the Legault to take the initiatives to bring forward the notion that they care about Black people. And I say the notion that they don't have to care about Black people, but in the name of real politics and power relations, what is the Black community, us as a community, doing for ourselves? So that they can see that when comes voting time, they shouldn't take our vote for granted. In Quebec, the CAC party of Legault don't take the Black vote for granted. They know Black people are not the ones voting for them. But in Ontario, Prime Minister Ford, actually, he does know there's Black people who vote for him. There's a lot of Black people who vote for him.
Yeah.
Remember, 2020, 3 years ago, George Floyd, in 24 hours, Prime Minister Ford went from there's no systemic racism in Ontario to recognizing there is systemic racism in Ontario. Someone must have reminded him, hey, you have a lot of Somalis, Jamaicans, and other Africans who actually do vote for you because your brother was sympathetic to them. So this is not a vote you want to lose. So that's the way that I see it. How are we going to position ourselves? How are we going to advocate ourselves for our community? No matter what organization is mentioned, Black North Initiative, Roots and Culture Canada, etc. That's not what really matters. It's the community as a whole, not mattering in terms of election day, showing up to churches and coming to pretend they love Black people. No. What are you really going to do for us? And even when you promise monies, how is this money to be delivered? And
Thank you.
is it going to be attached to the realities of Black people?
Cesar, I want to go a little bit deeper on this, and I know you keep you keep your pulse on world events. Just want to get your take on the conversations about reparations happening in San Francisco, and how there was a proposal that maybe every Black citizen who's been a resident of San Francisco for a number of years should get $5 million. And then on top of that, the San Francisco chapter of the NAACP saying, no, 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 we should put the money to programs, education, etc. Where do you stand on all that situation, if you have anything to share with us?
Well, thank you. So I just want to make sure for the viewers, they have to be aware that our conversation is authentic. This is not
Yep.
something I want to make sure of this.
Yeah.
So, and in saying and speaking of this, I will tell you this, Dr. Vibe. Yes, I am involved. I've been following the file regarding reparations and uh, including speaking with some Jewish leaders in regards to the parallels in terms of how can blacks obtain reparations as Jewish people have obtained reparations. And this conversation is very present in the United States,
Yes.
as notably well, I don't want to say the issue, the rising number, and this is kind of a taboo topic, the rising number of black Jews. I said black Jews. I didn't say black Hebrews or
Yeah.
fundamentalists, want to be whatever, Dungeons and Dragons brothers and brothers. No, I'm talking black Jews. So that conversation is happening. Now, you're asking me here in terms of reparations, and I'm actually going to be involved notably in that in regards to reparations to a certain black country. But I do agree with the NAACP. It
Mm.
is very dangerous. Yes, it is. And I will tell you furthermore why I agree. Right here in Canada, we have the example of what happens when you give a sudden, unexpected lump sum of money to people who are not used to having nor to manage that amount of money. It
Mm.
is catastrophic.
Okay.
In,
Okay. You okay.
there
So
are many indigenous people here in
mhm.
Canada, and again, I'm specifying this is not about giving truth to that white stereotype about indigenous people that they get money, they finish it in alcohol and other such. No, but it's a human reality. Giving a lump sum, a large unexpected amount of money to people who are not used to having it or to manage it is dangerous, because the first thing most people will do will be to fall into what I call the second cancer of the black psyche, consumerism. That car you wanted to have, that large screen plasma, whatever 8K or whatever number of Ks that we are at, that PS5. No, you need programs. It's the uplifting of the community. The uplifting of the community will take care of those who live in the wrong side of town that sees more social services by uplifting them. Giving that certain amount of money, you're talking $5 million. First of all, it's also dangerous because what do you think will happen to the average white person if they live in a city where the average black person is suddenly getting, whether it's 5 million or 50,000 or $5,000? You will see a rise in crime. You will see a
Oh boy.
resentment that can be
Wow.
deadly.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. Interesting.
Yes, yes,
You
yes. It's the community. It's the community. And I really mean that as a perfect example in terms of with 2023, we just need to go back to the late 60s. Our brothers and sisters of the SNCC turned Black Panthers, that's how they uplifted communities.
okay? We went off topic a little bit. I thought we had to go down this road. Cesar, you're making me think. One of the things I'm thinking about is having a live roundtable discussion with people from both sides of the border, Canada and US, and talk about reparations, because there are some people who will agree with you and then some people who won't agree with you. But I just have to pull the right people into that conversation because I know it'll be a very spirited conversation. So
Well,
I
well, if I can give just one last
yeah,
example,
yeah,
if you want to give reparations and give a check to individuals, to whom are you going to give a check? You're going to give, let's forget 5 million. It can sound like a fanciful number. Let's just take a number that people can grasp. Let's say $100,000. $100,000, far from 5 million, but
yeah.
$100,000, right? Six figure. Most people don't have that. You're gonna give it to whom? To grandpa, grandma? You're gonna give it to dad? In many families, dad hasn't been around. You're gonna give it to mom? Mom has been working hard and everything you want, but then which of the siblings are you also going to give it to? Oh, you're gonna give it to the 18-year-old. So you expect the 18-year-old sibling to be okay with getting 100,000, just as the 25 or 30-year-old who has to go through college or the other one who has been in jail, or it's the community. We have to be very careful of not making our black people more individualistic and risk giving. It's kind of a Pandora box. It's a poison gift. That's how I look at it. The community has to be uplifted,
All right.
but that money to go to organization very accountable. We don't want to have monies missing.
Well, I think that will people who who disagree will come back with that saying, are there any organizations that would be trustworthy enough that are
Well,
Black Canadian based to handle that? But we're gonna go. Let's stop here because you give me ideas. I'm starting in the back of my alleged mind saying, okay, who can I have as part of this discussion? And offline, I'll certainly get your input too, because we need to have that conversation, a North American discussion on this. So let's hold it there because we could take the next 45 minutes going down that hole. So let's go to our next conversation piece. And it was a quick visit, but U.S. President Biden came to Canada for 27 hours.
he basically could have had the visit on Zoom, save
Really?
taxpayers' dollars right there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's important that in terms of two allies and the longest, unguarded border in the world, it's totally normal that they visit one another, especially after 4 years of Trump not setting foot in Canada. But truthfully, he also wasn't exactly welcome. Um, but yes, an important visit. But when I say important, first of all, any meeting between Canada and the United States is important, first and foremost, in terms of the power relations, where Canada is at the lower end of that power relation. So it is important from the Canadian side of things.
Sure.
And just as in our next topic, uh, at the forefront, it was basically a visit not only to show support to Ukraine, but also, and I don't want to say to bash China, and I also don't want to say anti-Chinese kind of meeting, no, but a growing sense in Western nations that China is either a frenemy or becoming more and more of an enemy. And here, this geopolitical conversation, which is beyond talking about TikTok. I hope most of our people understand it. It's beyond talking about TikTok. But if you are, whatever your skin color, especially if you're Black, if you have TikTok or some of these popular Chinese apps on your government phone, like you work for the government, provincial, federal, delete them. Do not use them. It is not safe. I do not have. I don't have TikTok on my work phone, not personal phone. It is true the Chinese government does use this app to spy on people. Based on what I read, this is not some fear mongering, and I'm not paid like. I'm not wearing something red to say that I'm speaking for Canada, but no, it is true. But hey, guess what? Other nations also do it, including Western nations. So
Sure.
this is not something China only does. All right, we remember about how do you call them, Facebook and my God, that company they had used to spy to get people data.
Oh,
Mm,
yeah. I can't remember the name of them. I know you're talking during the election.
yes, yes,
Oh, I can't remember. Can't
yes.
remember. Go ahead. Don't keep on
So
going.
yeah, so other organizations, including from here, North America and Europe, also do it. So spying is something all the countries that can do spying do. So this is not some type of anti-Chinese, anti-Asian, but that visit of Biden also has, so on the forefront, yes, we support Ukraine. Um, let's be careful about China. And of course, Joe Biden talked about China not having sent weapons to Russia, but in this conflict, which as an African born Black person is yet another European conflict. European conflicts always have the smell of a world war. Why? It's like the vast majority of countries in the world have neither issues with Russia nor Ukraine. But in the nature of that conflict, you basically also get, the warnings in terms of China's involvement and notably in elections. But on the background of that visit, there's also the conversation about Haiti. The conversation about Haiti in terms of the US government wanting to push Canada into direct intervention in Haiti. We have to be very honest about that. I stand with the Trudeau government here that it is not a good idea for Canada to go there. Surprisingly, maybe to many people, um, polls suggest that a majority of Haitians welcome a foreign/Canadian military intervention. Canada does not have the army for this. Canada does not have the number nor the quality for such, and such an intervention is an intervention that would take not weeks or months, but years. It's not just a matter of regime change. The current Haitian government is illegitimate. It's, I mean, it would be the Canadian Afghanistan. And we saw after 20 years how it ended up
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
US.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea. If you just look, forget the whole country of Haiti. And I was yesterday, I was with some of my Haitian friends. We were having Domino's nights in downtown Ottawa. Just the city, the capital city of Port-au-Prince, has 3 million people. You really think the Canadian army of what? Not even a million soldiers? At the very most, 10,000. I read different numbers.
They couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it. And there's no shame in saying that. There's no shame in saying that. It's about recognizing the capabilities. It's one thing to want to help, to assist, because yes, we have to do something. When I say we, I'm speaking first and foremost us as Black people for Haiti. Millions of dollars have been robbed through the Red Cross back in 2010 when there was the earthquake. And notice I am looking very much at the Clinton Foundation that has been pinpointed for diverting a lot of monies. The problem with Haiti, and I speak this with much respect, as I am not Haitian, and secondly, I have never set foot in Haiti. So if I offend anyone from Haiti, I apologize. I speak truthfully as a brother, as a Pan-Africanist, will always recognize Haiti to be at the forefront of the Black struggle. But the solutions for Haiti ultimately goes through 4 places. It goes through Washington, Ottawa, and Paris. Paris in France, where so much Haitian money has been stolen. But it also goes through a 4th place, the Haitian diaspora. The Haitian diaspora, and number 5th, the African Union. Haiti should be part of the African Union, and those other African and Caribbean nations have to be the ones involved to uplift Haiti under the leadership of responsible, honest, and trusted Haitian leadership, not those who are there right now due to the level of corruption. I mean, just this weekend there was the um, Ibero-American Summit, which is basically the international summit of basically Spain and Portugal with the colony nations in the Americas. And despite issues between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, the president of the Dominican Republic made a good point, which is the Haitian problem has to be a problem not solved by one country, such as neighbor Dominican Republic, which is mainly used in terms of as a touristic nation, aka so much of its revenue coming from tourism, and definitely not by some military intervention from just the US or just Canada. Where's the United Nations in this? But where is truthfully the socioeconomic job creation, environmental cleaning that has to come to uplift Haitians, to basically convince a young Haitian male to let go of the gun and to come to work for the family, for a sense of safety, but also the rebuilding of the Haitian army. Do people realize that Haiti does not have an army because of those same three nations, aka Washington, Ottawa, and Paris? They're the ones who destabilized Haiti in terms of having an army, but destabilized Haiti since and before a certain Aristide, because they did not like wear an Aristide, a priest. So I'm not here, like, you know what I mean? It's like uh, those who have cared and wanted the best for Haiti time and again have been chased out of power, not only by the corrupt elites, but also by the Western powers that keep pointing to Haiti as a failed state, but that keep being involved to keep it as a failed state. I think in this case, we have to recognize the Canadian government is being very prudent to resist um, the push of the US government to do direct intervention, because it would be dangerous too. I mean, uh, the shanty towns, the way Haiti's packed, and we March 26th, hurricane season is coming soon. Who knows if Haiti is not going to be hit again? The situation made worse again, cholera, etc. It's just it's a human, a historical tragedy, and it's very much a failure of the United States, aka the United States, which since the mid 19th century has the Monroe Doctrine in terms of sphere of hegemony of the Americas. But
Yep.
is it to punish the black revolutionaries of Haiti still? So yeah.
Okay. Good stuff. Let's move next up to U.S. Vice President Harris visit to Africa and Uganda's anti-gay bill. Correlation. Go for it.
Well, basically, just the timing couldn't be better. Joe Biden, President Biden, in Canada, and notably talks in terms of China and the growing threat of China, aka the frenemy, because uh, the Western world depends a lot on China. A lot of the very nature of our goods, even as we're speaking right now. I mean, the laptop that we're using and so forth, they would cost a lot more if they were not made in China. So Vice President Harris being in Africa in terms of sending that message that we are your friends and don't fall into the clutches of China, aka Russia as well, because what's really happening in Africa right now is that France is being kicked out more and more. It's not so much countries. The civilian population is becoming, thanks to the internet and thanks to Pan-Africanists. This is something very important. People sometimes hear the term Pan-Africanist and they're like, what are Pan-Africanists doing? Pan-Africanists on the ground, not only in the Western world, as I am here, but also in Africa, are educating further the peoples regarding the ongoing neo-colonialism that is being done by Western nations, and especially France. France historically was basically the subservient of the United States in Africa after the age of colonization in 1960, aka the Year of Africa. So, what basically is happening is that France is being kicked out. Just a few weeks ago, French President Emmanuel Macron is basically handling what could be seen as a growing civil unrest over the age of retirement in France. People, you should take a look at the pictures of what Paris looks like now with the garbage and the fire, very far from the city of light and the city of love. It's very ratatouille. You watch that movie, the rats in the garbage, you get the picture. But basically, Vice President Harris being there to try to tell African nations that America is a fair partner when America has a long history of supporting dictatorships in Africa, of pushing Western companies, especially American companies, into Africa, and it's important to say it, promoting by force and interest Western values. Example, the use of the IMF in terms of creating deregulations into states, aka if you want to have Western aid, you must change the nature of your government, you must cut here and there, etc. And this is also where you get such a notion in terms of the Uganda's anti-gay bill, where you have African nations, about 30 or a little bit more than 30 African nations that have strong anti-gay bills or
Yeah.
anti-gay laws. So the bill before it becomes a law. This anti-gay bill that has come, um, and we have to be careful. This is not about promoting or pushing Western agenda in Africa. Africa and Caribbean nations have to choose and pave their own way. However, we cannot be black nations and black people saying we hate everything about slavery and colonization. But then when it comes to homosexuality, we go forth and saying the Bible and the Quran condemn this, when the Bible and the Quran was imposed to us by whites, Arabs, and Europeans through slavery and colonization. At the same time, this anti-gay bill, and this anti-gay bill, one of its particularities, and I'm saying this as a human rights consultant, is the fact of the accusation of being gay is the crime. The accusation of being gay that basically leads to the perception or belief of gay practices, homosexual practices. This is very much, if we take a Canadian example, a reversal of 1969, P.E. Trudeau, the father of Justin, basically saying the state has no business in people's bedroom, aka people's private life.
Yep.
This is the state immersing itself into people's private lives under claims of morality that is based on in the notion of Uganda, overwhelming the Bible, but also the Quran, in terms of saying homosexuality is a sin against God. There is no anthropological or historical proof of punishment against gay people in Africa prior to the arrival of slavery and colonization by the white Arabs and the white Europeans. For those who want to say, yes, please go ahead, Brother Vite.
No, yeah, you covered it all there, and yeah, this just I think America's efforts to try to shore up their representation in Africa may be too late.
And it's not well done. Because it is the game is so clear. They're coming because of China and Russia gaining more ground. I was watching some tactical videos this weekend about how some of the terrorists, the Islamic terrorists in Mali, are being bombed and killed and being pushed away with the collaboration of the Russians. I am not here to be some pro-Russian or tell you Russia is great for Africa, because it's not. Russia is an empire. Russia is a colonizing nation. They just didn't go colonizing Africa because they were not invited at the 1884-1885 Berlin Conference. But the empire of Russia is a colonial empire in Europe and Central Asia. There is anti-Black racism in Russia as well. So I'm not here in the logic of some people, not to be Black people, to think of, because they didn't colonize us, therefore they are our friends. No, it's about interest. And ultimately, the interest non-Black nations have of Africa is always about the natural resources and also this fear of the booming African demographics. You want to be on the good side of this growing demographics because that's a lot of consumers right there. You want to be on the good side of these growing demographics because these are millions of people who are bound to exit the continent and become the migrants into your countries. So when you have such initiative that happens, it directly creates an impact into other areas of socioeconomics where, for example, Ugandan socioeconomics is in the negative right now, notably with a sense of a global inflation. So it becomes seen as gay people, just as was the case in the Western world, become ideal targets to avoid having certain essential conversations in terms of how is the country running. This is without even talking about the fact that Uganda, just as my birth country of Cameroon, have had the same president dictator for decades, President Dictator Museveni. So this is also a convenient way, to, and this is what I find sad. Africa and Black nations have to have their own evolution, but we have to be careful to ostracize, discriminate, and kill our own people to avoid certain tough conversations, and notably under claims and justifications of ideologies such as religions from non-Black people. That is dangerous.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if any progress can be made by the United States in Africa. I think they're way too late. They're way too late.
I think they're even more late because, and this is the age of the internet. People are becoming more and more educated to what has happened to the past, the way of geopolitics, the way globalization is impacting Africa. I give you a crazy example. A new car in Europe becomes secondhand. You can buy secondhand in Europe or in America. In Africa, that car, you think your car is getting recycled. In Africa, that car becomes the third, fourth, or fifth hand, adding to more pollution, adding to more dangers, etc., etc. It's the very nature of cooperation and also the false claims of morality and politics when people see what's happening. I mean, we can criticize all we want the Uganda anti-gay bill, but let's not forget this is America 2022 that passed anti-abortion at the Supreme Court. So, to what extent can America and the Western world be giving moral lessons to African nations?
Mm. Lots of stuff. Well, we come to it. We got it all in, fitted in nicely. Cesar, any last things you want to share with our audience today, and also how can they get in touch with you?
I can be in touch with, as my email is appearing, but also on Facebook, Cesar Remy, Cesar Cesar Remy Rimy. And the last thing that I would say is let us pay attention to basically the federal budget that will be unveiled on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Let us pay attention in terms of seeing if anti-Black racism will even be named, if there's something specific in regards to Black people. And at the same time, as news of the world are going, let us keep our eyes on the United States to see if our brother, because I'm giving support to this brother, I think right now, this is the bravest Black person in the world. He may disagree. I don't know him personally. He may disagree. He may say he's just doing his job. But Brother Bragg, District Attorney Bragg.
Oh boy.
There you go. There you go. Will he indict officially Donald Trump because we're saying this, and yet we have Trump basically making death threats, basically, posting on his whatever Truth Social, whatever it's called.
Well, he's allowed on Facebook and YouTube again too, and Twitter.
So basically talking about a rebellion if I'm arrested, clearly stating his white privilege that he is to his belief above the law. And yet the cases against him keep increasing. So at the forefront of cases against him and the likeliness of indictment against him in numerous cases comes Brother Alvin Bragg. And I want to give him support. So the federal budget and also Brother Bragg. And tomorrow, the 27th, I will attend the parliamentary iftar in terms of the break of the fast
Yes.
on the day for Ramadan.
Ramadan, yes. All those who are celebrating that over the next 29 days. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So although 28 days because we are in 2023, not 2024. Yes.
Yes.
Although I am in a apostate of Islam and also rejected Christianity, it is important in terms of, as I got this invitation, to be everywhere there are Black people present, because we must never confuse personal orientation, such as me living Islam, with the reality of Blackness, aka there is anti-Black racism uh, in Muslim Islamic communities, and as such, uh, it will be my honor to go, and I will go with one of my friends who is actually born in a Muslim family and country of Eastern Africa, and also has rejected Islam. It is important for us to be there to represent Pan Africanism, and as I remind people, Brother Malcolm X, if he had lived a few years longer, I am sure he would have eventually also rejected Islam, not because of Islam itself, but in terms of anti-Black racism in yet another white ideology.
Wonderful close as always. Says I thank you for taking the time out of your positive, productive schedule and family. You hear all the stuff he has going on, but he always, very few times when I ask him to come on, he says he can't make it. So we always appreciate you. Again, congratulations on that award you received. You shared with us at the front end.
Okay.
Most importantly, to you and your family, all the best.
Thank you always, Dr. Vibe. Thank you to everyone and for the support. And Jesse, Albano, Loretta, Pupo.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna see if we can pin you down and have you can. She'd love to meet you offline just to say thank you. So we'll see if we can make that happen. All right.
Thank you.
Take care, my brother. All right, family. As always, Cesar giving his time as always to us, and we love him and his family. So that is it for today. You can watch replays of Black Canada Talking at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can also check it out on my website, the drvibeshow.com. You can get in touch with me through my website. Also email dr at the dr VIBE at the, a little tired today, at the drvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show, Twitter, at drvibeshow, and Instagram at the drvibeshow. If you'd like to promote your business or service on the show, contact me at my website address, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. This is the way we close it out. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourselves grace and don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Make sure you follow me. Next week on Black Canada Talking, we have Chef Bashir, incredible culinary guy out of the Toronto area. And I think he is one of the few people in North America that has been given the go-ahead to do a course on African cooking at a post-secondary institution. At least one of the few ones in North America at George Brown College, and maybe the first one in Canada. But we're going to get him on to talk about that. So, as always, remember to give yourselves grace. God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith. Walk good. And we'll see you soon. Yeah.